Do you feel like you envision your life expanding more, or do you feel like this is the way it needs to be?
I don't see much of a change.
Hmm.
I think I'm going to have to do this the rest of my life. This is the only way I can do it and somewhat try and guarantee that I'll have a good day. Welcome to Bipolar She. I'm your host, Janine Noel. Bipolar She is a storytelling podcast about living with mental illness. The content of the show may include stories of suicidal ideation and suicide. At the show's website, bipolarshe.com, I've listed ways to find support. If you ever need immediate help, please dial 988, a suicide and crisis lifeline. I believe in the healing power of writing and speaking about our darkest of days in raw detail. So let's go.
So, Janine, remind me of where we were when we last talked.
All right. So we were at my third hospitalization, and that was in Los Angeles.
Mm-hmm.
And I came back up to the Bay Area and recovered. But I was actually kind of slipped back and was in the hospital again after that, where I lived. And ultimately, I got really lucky. I got on good medication. I had really good psychiatric care. And within a couple months, I had a job with a film production company. So I think I look back on that, or I may have said that, when I was younger, it was a little easier to bounce back from these things.
Right.
And so I do want to emphasize that for some people, going in and out of the hospital makes sense for their care. And I've been really fortunate because I've had kind of amazing support from both doctors and family and friends. So
Right.
I really did have that safety net there.
Mm-hmm.
And without that, I'm not sure exactly where I would be.
Yeah. Okay, so we're back home. You're working for a film production company. Sounds like you're getting pretty good care. So what happens next?
Right. So we're going to go ahead and jump forward in time.
Oh, okay. I'll strap in.
Yeah, I did okay in San Francisco for a while. But there was this big chunk of my life where about every 4 years I was in a psych hospital. And ultimately, things did not go well in San Francisco, but I was not hospitalized. I did lose touch with reality. It was awful. It was scary. But my family was able to care for me, and I didn't have to go into the hospital, which was a real gift when that happens.
Mm-hmm. Can I just ask, were you still on meds at that point?
Oh, I've always been on medication.
Okay. Gotcha.
I've been on medication for 30 years.
Actually, a little secret. Me too. Anyway.
Always on medication. But that doesn't mean mistakes happen by providers or by patients. I had this idea. You've heard how much I wanted to be an actor. And I had this idea that I was going to quit acting and go back to grad school and get an MFA in creative writing.
Mm.
I had taken a class at UC Berkeley, and I started writing about these episodes and what it was like to go through them and also the aftermath of all of them. And it was kind of exciting to put them down on a page. Other people read them. Somehow I felt distance from these stories, and somehow I was able to manage my life and these backstories, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So I said, I'm quitting acting. I'm moving to Tucson to go to the University of Arizona, their MFA program. And it went okay. But at the same time, I know I've mentioned I had an autoimmune disorder.
Right.
And I've been really vague about that as we've talked these last few episodes, because I really thought I could keep that out of the conversation and just focus on my mental health. But the reality is that that disease is so intertwined with my mental health that I'm sitting here going, you're only getting half the story. And I think, many people have physical health problems and mental health problems
Sure.
together, and they exacerbate each other.
Right.
So I just wanted to include that. And it was at Tucson where I was the very sickest I've ever been physically and had to undergo major surgeries for Crohn's disease, which is an autoimmune disorder where your immune system starts attacking itself. And Crohn's is basically, it's a GI disorder. So your entire intestinal tract is attacked and ulcerated. And it's a pretty brutal disease.
Sounds painful.
It is painful, and they don't have great cures for it, we'll say. Some of the cures include surgeries that are disfiguring and difficult to deal with.
Okay.
And that was actually the cure that I received.
Okay.
But I still even struggle with it, and I'm still on Crohn's medication now. So it was kind of a pattern for me. I would get pretty exhausted, and I'd start to feel pretty lonely with this disease. And so I thought I would get a dog back in Tucson, and that would maybe help me through my graduate program. So I just started wandering around, going to different rescues and looking at different dogs. And I found this dog at Pima County Animal Control. And she was kind of back in the cage that they have. I don't know if you've ever looked for a dog, but some of these dogs know they're on display. They come up and prance around
Right.
at the front gate.
Pick me.
Yeah, but she was in the back. They said she was part Shiba Inu, which is a breed I love because I had a Shiba Inu at one point. Anyways, I wasn't sure about her. She was very sad. And I took her out and her tail was between her legs. And then one of the volunteers said, "Hey, I think that's your dog." And I was like, "Oh God, really?" And she was. So I rescued her. And
Wait, wasn't there a phrase I remember you talked about this, about the state of this dog? She was absent or something. What was that phrase?
so actually, that's a phrase that they used on my second dog.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I would say Amber, my first dog, I think was named Jennifer, and I changed it.
Good call.
But that was my second dog.
Okay.
It was like a shut down dog.
Right.
They're so traumatized that they're limp and you can't make them do anything. And it's rare that they get out of that situation. So I got this dog, and socially, I just did not fit in to this graduate program. I was older. I think I was, 35 or something. Everyone was younger and hipper and cooler in Tucson. And I was sort of this old person without any, very few friends. So it was just me and this dog. I was totally lonely because I had had this major surgery. And then things didn't go so well in Tucson.
What happened?
Well, it's interesting because I didn't have this dream of being an actor anymore, but I had a psychiatrist who put me on an antidepressant, and I thought that was normal and fine. Later, I learned that that's not a great treatment for some people with bipolar disorder.
Mm.
So, different drugs work different ways.
Right.
And I just, again, I lost touch. And I don't know if I can trace it back to a very specific moment. I just remember there was this deep riverbed that runs through Tucson, and I lived right on it. So it was this big sand pit you could go down into. And my dog would play down there, and I would walk through there. And I just started feeling, I guess, a similar feeling like I'm being watched. I'm part of something greater. I mean, even to the extent that the labels in my shirt, were just for me.
Wow.
And so signs were coming that way. It just, so it shifted away a bit from acting. But I was roaming through these sand pits, at night too, kind of dangerous. I was also teaching, in the middle of teaching freshman English.
Okay.
And I'm completely just breaking down in front of my students. I think some of the
Can you breaking down how? What was that?
I think it was mostly paranoid thinking. Again, that I was connected to evil, I was connected to the devil,
Hmm.
and I would feel that energy in certain ways. And I remember like scrambling and going to this church as much as I could in Tucson. I also was starting to see those symbols and signs, like the certain way people would drive. And this is kind of weird. Like, you know, when you hang your arm out the window
Mm-hmm.
or go like this, to me, that freaked me out whenever I saw somebody with their hand out the window.
You mean even just their elbow resting
Their
on the door
their
frame?
elbow or no, or the whole kind of the whole
Oh, the arm
hand.
hanging out.
Yeah.
Okay.
To me, that meant like hell. That like
Wow.
when I see that sign, like I'm in hell. That is the symbol that my soul is now in hell.
Wow.
So there are these tiny, I'll still see that today and get like a shiver.
Hmm.
And it started in Tucson because someone like, I was seeing my therapist and I walked out and I knew I wasn't well. And she told me to like go home and breathe and relax. And I was like, this is so far beyond that. And then this woman yelled out her window and like hung her hand out. And I went, oh my God.
Oh, that kind of cemented this whole experience. And mm-hmm.
That then, and sure, anything in hell was hanging on me. And I really wasn't in touch with anybody there. And so during these times, sometimes I would fall off from being in touch with my family or friends. Like I wouldn't call back very quickly. And so there came a day where I thought I had called them and I didn't think it was that big of a deal to call them back. But for them, they got very worried that something was wrong with me because I was losing contact with them. And yeah, I went into the sand pit and walked and thought about my label and my clothes. And I wasn't writing a suicide note, but I started writing all these very just like personal notes
Yeah.
about actually things that made me happy in my life. And maybe it was like this. Maybe it was a suicide note. I didn't quite feel that way, but then they sent a police officer over and to check on me to do a safety check.
Uh-oh, here are the police again. It's
So,
not a good sign in your life when these folks show up.
well, she was
Huh.
really nice.
Okay.
And she's like, I see you write a lot of notes. She looks at my table. I'm like, yeah, I write a lot. And she's like, you know what I do every day? I write a note and then I burn it.
Huh.
I'm like, oh, that's actually pretty good advice. And maybe she called my family. Things were okay. And then they sent another batch of social workers out to see me.
Okay.
And this is when things really shifted. And this is when some of my like acting thinking came back because they sent two social workers. One was a blonde girl. She just looked like a sorority girl. She was very pretty. And then the guy that came was dark skinned. He looked like he walked right off of a soap opera. He had these big biceps and a tight t-shirt. And she sat with me and she's just chit-chatting with me. And I'm talking to them and I don't really know what's up. But the whole time they're saying, we'd like you to come and get assessed by us. And I have my dog and she's down at my toes. And I'm just listening. And I say, I can't go. I have my dog. Like, who's going to care for her? And they said, well, you know, I'm sure there are resources. Someone will come and help your dog. And I was just afraid to leave her. But they really convinced me that it was the best thing to do.
So did you leave her?
I did. I left my dog. And I was admitted to Pima County Hospital. And it was brutal and scary. And all the time, I was just trying to get in touch with a nurse, and they were all behind glass. And I couldn't even get to anybody to talk to them, to ask about how to get my dog. And it took forever. It took almost a day to get my cell phone and to call a friend. And a friend that I didn't even know that well, a friend who I told them about all the hell in my head. And this poor young woman is just from my graduate program. But she did go get my dog. And finally, my mom came and got my dog. And finally, I was discharged. And when I went home, my dog, Amber, she, like the fur on the ridge of her back shot up and she kind of held back. She didn't run right towards me. And it took a minute for her to connect with me and for us to start playing again.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the most awful feeling to know that it took almost a day. She was home alone, maybe for 18 hours. And then for her to look at me that way and to feel like I've just failed my dependent. I just, I promised her the world and that happened. And could I have prevented it? So that, I think, was the beginning of me really understanding how whatever happens with me impacts other people.
Right. Or other beings. Yeah.
Yeah. And to let her down, that was awful. I mean, it
Yeah.
just was awful. But we got out of there. My mom came and we drove out with my dog and returned to the Bay Area. And I went into a partial treatment program. And there it was just reinforced as well. Like I've somehow need to just get this handled so this just doesn't happen again.
What is a partial treatment program?
So it's a day program.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, I mean, in total, I've had 7 psychiatric hospitalizations and probably 4 partial hospitalizations.
Mm-hmm.
And it was during that partial hospitalization that I became more fearful as well. I saw very smart people dealing with illness that kind of reduced them to nothing in terms of intelligence. Like a woman from Harvard that could no longer work. She was a scientist, I think, and she was trying to apply to a retail store and having to work so below her intellect. And seeing that again, so that with my dog and adding all these things up, it just became really clear that for me, staying out of the hospital is a big priority.
Right.
And not letting this happen again is a big priority. And I wish it worked that way. I wish that everything just fell into place after that. And it didn't. I had like 3 more bouts of psychosis, like over a couple years, but I wasn't in the hospital. We were able to contain it. So that was really super lucky.
Did you have a sense of the pattern, like what would bring this on, what would cause these breaks, and then what would allow them, like how you would come out of it? Or you just couldn't even predict, it would just come?
It was very hard to predict. But I think one of the big signs was trouble sleeping. And that could have been from a medication change, or it could just spontaneously happen. And for me, that was a big sign. So monitoring that.
And you were also dealing with the physical challenges as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I was pretty sick in 2 ways. I think, so it continued. So I did pick up and start a graduate program again in writing, and I continued to write excerpts from my life, clearly crazy ones, and share them with strangers. But somehow it felt okay again because I just disconnected from it. These are stories. It happens to be me. But my second year, I started to have trouble. I wasn't sleeping. Something was off with my medication. I had to take time off from school. And my mom and I had to write an email to school and to a professor I worked for saying that I have mental illness and I'm not able to attend school. And that was like the hardest email to send, to put that into words.
Sure.
And then I had my mom like hanging over me because I can barely write the email. And I'm asking her, is this okay? Is this okay? Like, can I send this? And this is the same mom who said to me, don't ever tell anyone about this. And here I was now, like completely announcing that this is what I have. And my mom is helping me write my note.
Yeah, must have felt like a defeat.
Yeah, it was a defeat, but it was no surprise because I was writing about all these crazy things. So people knew this. It was obvious I had mental illness, but having to put that in, into an email and really own it, that was sad.
And what was the result of this email and your request?
I mean, it just allowed me to miss some school, basically, but to also get my degree.
Right. Well, it's pretty impressive, actually, to me that in the midst of all this, you were still able to get a master's degree.
Yeah, I mean, it's because of good care that I did. And I guess it was writing, something that I love to do. So that just came a little bit more easily.
So back to the timeline. What happens next?
Oh, God.
Why are you laughing?
Well, oh, gosh. We skipped some things, so that's okay. After grad school, you mean?
Well, I've got you just having graduated with your master's degree. You're still kind of going in and out of these episodes, but you're fighting and you're getting pretty good care, but not enough to suppress all of it.
Well, I'm getting as much care as you can get through a psychiatrist for medication management and seeing a therapist every week. But it was, I went through, a bad week or so where I did not feel like totally planted on the ground. And that was 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was able to conceal that from my family,
Mm-hmm.
and to just have basically a couple friends help me through that. I think that was really my last time of feeling really unsteady,
Mm-hmm.
of feeling really scared. So I think from like 2016 to now, I've been able to manage things. But I mean, my life, JD, I'm not a spontaneous person. Like I live a pretty rigid life
Hmm.
in terms of taking my medication, sleeping early, listening to the same meditation for over 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I have a full life, but it's just not impromptu, I would say.
Right. It's good for you to have routines to really have structure.
Yeah, people need it. And that's what they told me when I said, I'm going to be an actress. I'm never going to stop.
So do you think that therapist was right long ago who said to you, don't do this, don't be an actor?
I mean, ultimately, she was right. It's not how I pulled my life together.
Right.
But I remember her in this red suit sitting across from her desk, and I just was looking at her like
Who wears a red suit?
A red suit, like a red power suit. And I just thought to myself, look out, lady, I'm going to do this anyway.
You mentioned a moment ago that you'd skipped over some things. Do you want to just circle back and mention any of those?
Oh, there are just more terrible times.
Ooh, goody.
No. I can't go into all of those. We've covered so much. I think it's fine if I don't go into those.
Okay.
San Francisco is a really scary place for me to go. So I can't totally go into that.
Okay.
I don't think I'm quite brave enough to do that in a podcast. I've done it. I've written that down.
Mm-hmm.
But that's a pretty scary one.
Well, it's brave of you to admit that you don't have the bravery right now to go into it. In the future, do you feel like you envision your life expanding more, or do you feel like this is the way it needs to be and I don't really foresee a change right now?
I don't see much of a change.
Hmm.
I think I'm going to have to do this the rest of my life and keep it pretty, I say rigid, but maybe there's a better word for it. Not quite as severe.
Structured, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, this is the only way I can do it and somewhat try and guarantee that I'll have a good day. Yeah, so I mean, all in all, I'm really fortunate at this point. Yeah, I'm grateful.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you made it.
Thank you.